Hello everyone and welcome back to Realism Overhaul Sandbox and Kerbal Space Program 1.12, where I've decided to put my HTV-X model to a very different use. The HTV-X is an upcoming spacecraft made by JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, which will deliver supplies to the International Space Station and probably do other things further along as the International Space Station is decommissioned. So it is not normally in this configuration that we see here. Normally the bottom portion is reversed, it's on top, but all along the way with the HTV, including the previous version before the X version, they have thought about using it with a spacecraft. So under here we have my Lynx spacecraft, and I'm trying to use it with the Lynx spacecraft. And so the service module portion of the HTV-X, I've made the service module of the Lynx, and then the container is now just extra living space. So this would normally carry the supplies to the space station. Instead, the Lynx is going to turn around and dock with it, and then they can just hang out in it as well. So it'll just be extra space and act like sort of like the orbital module of Soyuz if the orbital module of Soyuz was much bigger. So that's the idea, and I'm gonna see if I can launch it on H3, which is not a guarantee. It's a little bit tight. So that is the package. That is what we're going to launch on the H3. And what I would like to do is make sure that the launch escape system is up here so that it can decouple. And let's see if it all works out. Well, in this install I have my Tanegashima scenery. It's not perfect, but at least it's here, and we don't have a floating Tanegashima area here. So let's go with it, and I'll just use ascent guidance. Alright, shading is a little bit weird on this old model of the H3, but let's go. So in my timeline, the Lynx spacecraft is actually jointly made by Japan and India. India has the Gaganyaan spacecraft that they're working on, but that's only a low Earth orbit spacecraft. The Lynx is meant to go to the moon and come back from the moon. So it's basically like Orion if Orion was just a little bit lighter, and that is going in the timeline made jointly between Japan and India. So this is a valid way to launch it, though if it was going to the moon it would be launched on the KSP-RO rocket. Basically the H3 serves as the equivalent of the Saturn 1 or Saturn 1B rocket in the timeline, whereas the KSP-RO rocket is more like the Saturn 5. It went rather steep this time around. If it doesn't make it, I'll probably tweak these. Off go those, and I'll let go of the launch escape system here. Seems a bit problematic. Technically the service module should be able to complete orbit, but we have to actually turn around and grab the little module over here, so if we don't make orbit with the second stage, we're not going to be able to do that. It's a lot of thrust weight ratio too at the end of this burn. Okay, well there was a staging issue. So I mean it should have been fine actually, because it decouples and then has that engine, but it seemed to want to stage a whole bunch of stuff. Maybe it thought it was staging the fairings or something. Okay, so 6, and let's try 50 there. Alright, here we go again. Oh, but under options... No, Okay, dynamic pressure is less than 0, I guess. Altitude greater than a lot. Maybe let's just not have it auto stage. I'll do that part. Gotta make sure that the terrain... Well, I've got to fix the terrain in a number of ways. But it's obviously getting clipped in by the regular terrain, but it was supposed to be above that. So that's a bit of a problem. Still pitches over quite dramatically, but it'll be enough this time, it looks like. Okay, booster set. Launch escape system separation. Okay, staging. Oh, now it's saying it's negative there. Well, if I put a little dummy stage here, it's not happy with the Delta V. Sure doesn't look like it's enough, just barely. We could underfuel the service module, and there's probably too much fuel for low Earth orbit anyway. Okay, well, yeah, it's gonna be 500 short here. Let's make some changes. Well, like I said, we probably don't need this much in here. So, under supplying the service module. Well, let's see, how much does that give me? We need 500. Part of it's just gonna be trajectory. Ooh, that shouldn't even be possible. That doesn't give us much according to this. I'm using the 3-engine bottom section. Maybe I should just use 2. Because the thrust weight ratio with it seems to be really high. Then it'll last longer. The thrust weight ratio is still fine during its burn, but it'll last longer, so maybe it'll get higher up before starting the 3rd stage. Also slightly better amount of Delta V because of that. So 2 engines and 4 boosters. Okay, so that's that. Try and help it out like this. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Maybe we should just abandon that extra module. Of course, this will work if it's just the capsule and the service module without the extra habitat module, which was the supply container. But that would be sad. I don't think it should be necessary. I think it was just misreading the situation. But then that number is going down really fast. That's the number for how much we would have left after making orbit. And if it goes negative, then we don't have enough. It just doesn't turn right. Well, get rid of the launch escape system quickly. But now it's just sort of all over the place. Okay, let's try it differently. Just go for 1 degree per second. Well, the turn is smoother this time at least. But it's not helping the end situation. And we'll lose use the launch escape system immediately. Well, I'll let it try its best, but right now the inevitable conclusion is that we can't put this load on the H3 rocket. It's like 20 tons. I mean, but that's with the launch escape system, you see. The H3 is not optimized for low Earth orbit, but of course, it's meant to carry the HTV-X to low Earth orbit. That's about 17 tons. And presumably that's as much as it could carry. In this case, we're carrying a capsule plus the HTV-X, but we're not carrying any cargo in the HTV-X, you see. The cargo capacity is supposed to be 6 tons. So we're not carrying any of the cargo. So I thought we could make it work, but it doesn't look like we can make it work. The capsule is a little bit more than 6 tons. Right now, we actually have a lot of Delta V. The thing is, it needs all the time to do the burn with the upper stage. So we'll see. Maybe in the end it'll be better because it's trending in a better direction right now, but we'll have to see. Will we have to go to an H3 Heavy? That one would certainly have the capacity. Well, it seems pretty certain about the minus 246. Well, really, Delta V-wise, we should have enough to get to orbit. I mean, 10,000 is quite a lot. And so the problem is the second stage is taking too long. And so the solution is probably to just cut down on the second stage as much as possible. I think 9,600 is still plenty. The question is whether it's plenty enough to get through that 9-minute burn time. But at least we'll probably be getting a little bit further on the first stage plus boosters like that. So I don't want to have to lock the fuel tanks and then unlock them. So I'm going to, otherwise the ascent guidance is going to be completely confused. So I'm just going to type in the new numbers here to underfuel it. And I'm still debating whether to use the 2-engine version or the 3-engine version. It seemed like we got higher with the first stage with the 3-engine version, even though we had less Delta V, so I think that's probably the better way to go. So it's heavier, and it cuts down on our Delta V, but it might... But the thrust weight ratio is really high, though. I mean, we do have to think about putting crew on here. Yeah, we do have to think about putting crew on here, and so limiting it to about 4, a thrust weight ratio of 4 is better. And the boosters, even though it says 4.34 there, the boosters do have a thrust curve, so they'll actually go down in thrust, so it won't actually hit 4 there. So yeah, I guess we'll have to go with 2 engines just for the crew's sake. Let's see. So will underfueling it help? Of course, we've already underfueled the service module. Now we're underfueling the second stage to see if that works. Could probably tighten things up a bit. The little tube I have here isn't strictly necessary. We could just put a docking port directly on it. So we're not going to have this adapter tube anymore. That was mainly so that I could mount directly on there, but I'm not doing that anyway. Okay, well now that I've changed that, it says 9,188. Which might be actually the truth. So then that puts me into a pickle. That's less than I wanted, but maybe that's what we actually had and it was just giving me the wrong number. Well, let me still cut it down, but not quite as much. Cut it down by 20% and go with 9,300. Seems a bit low, but anything to save our lower stages and not have burn time be so high. So I think we were getting fooled by the Delta V reading there because of the staging. It's the weird situation with the habitat slash supply module being placed like that. On the right side, maybe ascent guidance will have a proper reading of the situation too and do a better job. Okay, well, I'll just go engage. Go ahead. Off it goes. I tried one fix to the upper stage plume issue, but I don't think it'll work, to be honest. I might just in general pitch too aggressively, but off go the boosters. Well, it's still reading a shortfall of 250 something. Off goes the launch escape system. Here minus 80, but we're still getting drag here. Well, it's been going down, and now we're gonna stage. Yeah, the plume fix didn't work. But not down enough. I mean, when I say down, I mean closer to zero, closer to working out. Looks like 58.4 short. Well, maybe I can reduce the load in the service module to fix that. I don't honestly know how much delta V we have in the service module right now because it's just RCS, it's not an engine. So maybe I should slap an engine on there that runs on MMH and Mon3. Probably not the same ratio though. I just set it as a 50-50, which is pretty close to what it really is. With MMH and Mon3, it's usually like 50.1 to 49.9. But anyway, I just made it 50-50, and I'll just put an engine on and see how much delta V we have. We really need about 400 minimum, and would like a little bit more than that, but for lower orbit, 400 minimum is fine. But it has to be able to push around the habitat module as well. So I also don't know why this stage seems textureless when it probably ought to have like gold foil texture on it. Maybe I just need to make my own H3 rocket, to be honest. Well, at least reducing the amount in the second stage worked. Should I reduce it more, or should I just go with reducing the amount in the service module? First of all, once we reach orbit, I should check that the staging works the way I intended, since I've been having a little bit of issue with that. I mean, at least the periapsis is positive. But still a little bit tight. Okay, so in theory, yeah, that's fine. This we can disengage. And then this would turn around and dock with that. So, but of course we don't want to do that. I mean, maybe, no, they're not gonna let anybody do it while it's in this situation with 40 minutes to periapsis like that and still try to make orbit. Of course this can make orbit on its own. But alright, let's go inside and see how much delta V that has. Oh, it's pretty close to right ratio. It looks like fully fueled this only has 400. So, I think I'm going to have to make it. Yeah, I wanted 400 and it turns out I originally put for 400, so that's a bit rough, but looks like we need actually this to have all that fuel. As long as I want it to be legit. So now we've put more load in there. Great. Yeah, I'm thinking, I mean, reducing this doesn't seem like it's going to help, but I'll try to reduce it more this time. But we just added more load up there because I realized we didn't have enough delta V in the service module. I'll try it one more time with less, but I'm leaning towards more novel solutions instead of trying to eke out more from this rocket. I think we're pushing it too much. I mean, 9,000? Well, that's what it reads. Well, let's see. Will it do better? Somehow doubt that. Okay, just go. I mean, part of the problem is we're going to the 51.6 degree inclination. If we were just going straight out from Tanegashima, we'd certainly make orbit. I mean, now it's too aggressive, but then ultimately it tries to get to this pitch, so I'd rather it get to this pitch with the prograde vector instead of going away from it, but it really probably shouldn't be this far down at this altitude. Okay, off go those. And then the launch escape system. Yeah, I mean, we've got less here. We had minus 80 before, now we have minus 230, so I don't see any way that this is gonna turn out any better. So, novel solutions it is. I mean, maybe I can tweak a few things. I do have to tweak the Lynx pod so that it uses a different propellant. Right now, the pod RCS has methane and oxygen, but I don't think that's going to help anything. As far as supplies go, I mean, we don't have a huge amount of supplies in there. So, we could make these thinner. But their combined mass is just 2 tons. So we could do that, but I'll think about this, but obviously we're really pushing the poor H3 rocket here. So more testing will need to be done. Maybe it's going to turn out to be one of those, just like with the H2, with 2 of the saw boosters and then 1 of the cores on the side, the asymmetric look. I'm sure people would love that, but well, we'll see. Alright, so that's been testing with the Lynx spacecraft plus the HTV on the H3 rocket. And again, the HTV-X without the cargo in. That's how we accommodate the Lynx spacecraft. So with that, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And I'll see you next time.